And here we are one more time with episode 206 of The Horror Guys.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Brian.
And we're the Horror Guys here to talk about horror movies.
Horror movies, not Christmas movies, not this year. We're skipping Christmas entirely this year.
Well, as far as horror movies go, yeah.
There are 2 or 3 new horror movies that I've seen listed, but we have not gotten around to seeing them yet. And, well, last year we did 31 Days of Christmas, so this year we're a little Christmased out. We're sticking with new films from 2022 still mostly.
Next year, there will be an abundance of Christmas movies to do.
Probably will be.
Yeah.
What do we got this week?
Well, we got some new stuff, one called Men, simply the one word Men from 2022, and another, Fang from 2022, and a short film that was really good, House of Darkness, another brand new one, and Cloverfield from 2008.
Oh, 3 new movies and a not-so-new movie. Okay, cool. Yeah. Over on horrorbulletin.com, where you can sign up for our newsletter, comes in your email every week. You'll get all 4 of those movies reviewed, as well as Village of the Damned from 1960 and the remake from 1995.
We saw them both back-to-back days, and that was interesting, seeing them like that.
And they're both good.
They are.
You know, sometimes a remake is shot for shot, like that horrible, horrible Cabin Fever we saw a couple weeks ago, and that's a waste of time.
This was an updated remake. Yeah. It was definitely worth the effort, and both are good. I'd consider the original a classic, a black and white classic, and the remake was good. It was more graphic, more violent, a little more character development. Very interesting.
Yeah, you've got the total waste of time, like the Cabin Fever and that Psycho movie. Then you've got the ones that are completely different films, almost like The Thing, from The Thing that.
Thing from Another World.
The Thing from Another World, right. They're both good, but they're very different movies. Village of the Damned is kind of the same, but it's very well updated. It's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the basic plot is the same.
But the original is very good, too. They're both worth seeing.
So check those out. Check those reviews out.
Horrorbulletin.com, and, of course, you can read all our spoilery reviews over at horrorguys.com. Or you could buy the books at horrorguysbooks.com. We got it all covered, don't we?
We certainly do.
4 years ago. Hey, this is our 4th anniversary episode.
Yeah.
Probably should have mentioned that.
Oh, okay.
Back on episode number 1, we looked at Leprechaun from 1993 and Leprechaun Returns, which had just come out in 2018.
Some of Warwick Davis's finest work.
Well, the first one was. He wasn't in the second one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun hearing how much our show has changed in 4 years. We started out with news, 4 or 5 news stories, and then we got into 2 movies, an old one and a new one, and things have evolved. And it's kind of interesting how that worked.
Yeah, and here we are.
Yeah.
Still at it.
And before we get going, hey, last week we mentioned we had a giveaway on Pearl with DVDs. We got a giveaway this week, too, of something else.
What do we got?
Smile,
which is not as happy of a movie as the title would lead you to believe.
Yeah.
That's some grim horror, but that's really good. And if you want a free copy of it, we have some that we would be glad to give away.
Send us an email at horrorguys.com. Send us your mailing address, and if you're one of the first 5 people, you will get a copy in the mail. Again, this is a physical DVD, not a promo code.
Yep, and this is totally legit. This isn't a spamming tool or anything like that. We really have them in hand, and we want to give them away.
Sent out a couple of pearls last week. Sent out a couple of smiles this week. Actually, I guess everybody who got a pearl got a smile, too, just not the same kind.
Yeah, spreading the happiness.
All right, so let's get started. Our first film this week is called Men from 2022, written and directed by Alex Garland, stars Jesse Buckley, Rory Kinnear, and Papa Isidu. 1 hour and 40 minutes. Trailer in the show notes. Spoiler free. What happens?
Well, it has impressive acting, beautiful settings, amazing makeup and effects, and a story that neither of us were completely sure we understood. It's strange and interesting, one that we highly recommend, and also that we recommend you check out for yourself.
It's very weird.
It is weird, yeah.
And I thought about this for a couple of days afterwards, and I'm still not quite sure what was going on.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get down to it. What actually happens in this story? Harper has a bloody nose and watches a man falling outside her window. She moves to a big house out in the countryside.
A real big house.
Oh,
Beautiful
yeah, it
house.
is. It's nice. Way too big for one person, but I suppose if you want to, you
But it's a
could.
getaway kind of rental thing. Yeah.
Jeffrey, the owner, comes to the door to let her in. She's rented the place for 2 weeks. He shows her around, and it's a nice place, awfully big for her, and it's a 10-minute walk to town. He's weird, but seems harmless. He asks about her husband, since she's a Mrs., but she avoids answering. Well, we get a flashback to Harper and James talking about death. He threatens to kill himself if she leaves him. James is the man we saw falling earlier. He says that she'll have to live with the guilt of driving him to do it. She says he's threatening her, and he says it's just a warning. You really can't win with an argument like that, can you?
No, you can't.
We don't see what he did, but we assume he likely followed through on his promise. Harper then goes for a walk in the woods. There's a long, dark tunnel, and she plays around with the echoes. Ah-oh, ah-oh. It's a neat scene.
It's all fun until
A man at the other end starts running towards her. She goes the other way to avoid him. She then comes to another bricked-up tunnel and takes a different route home. She comes across some abandoned houses, which creep her out, and she takes a picture of the place. But then, in the picture, she notices there's a strange naked man standing in front of the buildings.
that's not normal.
It is a weird neighborhood.
Yeah.
Well, we then flash back to Harper finding James's body half impaled on a metal fence after jumping to his death. She does some work on the computer, and we see the naked man walking around in her backyard.
And that's an awesome scene because we see him over her shoulder and behind her, and she's talking on the phone or texting on the phone and doing stuff on her computer, not looking out the window. And he keeps changing the window that he's at and pressing himself right up against the glass. And everything.
He's like, look at me, look at me. And
She's really
not.
oblivious for a long time. It's an awesome scene.
Yeah, eventually she does see him and calls the police. The police then arrest the man, and in the meantime, we flash back to James punching Harper sometime in the past. Later, she visits the town and stops at the big old church there. She has a breakdown over what happened with James and just sits there crying for a while. On the way out, she finds a creepy young man in a plastic Halloween mask who wants to play hide and seek. He calls her a stupid bitch. Oh, that escalated quickly.
Yeah.
The priest comes to Harper's defense and asks what the crying was all about.
And this is where I might note that the priest looks an awful lot like the landlord and the kid and one of the cops.
Everybody in this town looks alike.
They're all played by Rory.
Yeah, Rory Kinnear is playing all the men.
And therefore the men title.
And that's kind of the gimmick of the whole movie, is that everybody in town looks like him, but nobody seems to notice.
Yeah, she doesn't notice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And they
just
don't
us
say
that can
anything
see
about it.
this.
Yeah.
All right, well, the priest comes over and asks her what's going on, and she tells him what happened with James. Turns out James didn't jump to his death. He was trying to climb down into her apartment from the one upstairs and fell by accident. Or maybe it was a suicide. She's not sure. It's the uncertainty of his intent that haunts her. The priest is not as sympathetic as she was expecting. Well, time passes. Out in the woods, the naked man inserts a leaf into his scalp.
The naked man who also looks a lot like the priest.
And
the other men.
landlord and the bartender and the little boy. They all look alike.
Yeah.
Harper goes to the pub and runs into Jeffrey there. The pub is full of men who look like Jeffrey, because Rory Kinnear again is playing all the men in the village, which she doesn't seem to notice or register. The policeman comes in and explains that they had to release the naked man about an hour ago. He didn't really do anything harmful. Harper gets upset and goes home. We then see the naked man following her again. All right, and we probably should stop there.
We probably should.
Yeah. Stuff happens.
Stuff happens. Stuff gets weird. Yeah.
And just the one actor playing all the men is weird, but it gets really weird as it goes on.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so Rory Kinnear again plays Jeffrey, the naked man, the policeman, the child, and everyone else.
In the town, yeah. James is a different actor. her ex.
Yeah, but he wasn't in the town.
Right.
So yeah,
yeah.
he's
it's all
somebody
the
else.
it's all the town men. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess maybe this is here's where I'm not quite understanding what this was even about. Maybe it's a not so subtle way of telling us that all men are the same, or maybe just watching him play 5 different characters at once in the pub was fun.
Well, it was fun. Yeah.
Did the naked man give birth to the entire town?
I think that was the implication. Then they were tying him in where he was becoming the Green Man, and the Green Man symbol was in the church too. Something about rebirth it's.
Are there no
weirdness.
women in the town?
Well, there was that one lady cop that came. When she called the police, the main police officer.
The lady
that was,
cop is your biggest gripe at this movie, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I think it would have been better. Yeah, she calls the police after the naked guy appears, and 2 police come. One is Rory Kinnear, who we don't get a good look at then, and the other is a female officer who talks to her and interviews her about what happened.
Who is definitely not Rory Kinnear, but probably should have been.
Well, not necessarily as a woman, but yeah, I think that police officer should have been Rory Kinnear in a different disguise, different prosthetics. Director's choice, and maybe there was a reason, but
We don't see any other women in the town, just the one police officer.
even the operator's voice, that was a woman. I think that would have been cool to have that be Rory Kinnear as well. But I don't know, for some reason the director chose to have these 2. The operator voice could have been some dispatch that was a central thing.
Okay.
But the lady cop was from the village.
Yeah, you'd think.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, well, anyway, we don't completely understand it.
Yeah.
There is a gore scene later on with an arm and a knife, and it's really well done.
Oh,
maybe a little overdone, but really good.
Yeah, there's some good effects and grossness there.
There's some birthing scenes that come later that are just, well, truly excessive.
Yeah, it goes on and on.
It's very weird. We don't have any idea what it's about. Grief and sex, I suppose, but it's not completely clear. Overall, we really liked it.
Yes.
Don't understand it, but we liked it.
We liked it.
Which takes us to our second movie, Fang, from 2022, written and directed by Richard Bergen, stars Dylan LeRae, Lynn Lowry, and Jess Paul. 1 hour, 38 minutes. Spoiler-free. It's a slow-moving story with low-key horror, but its excellent direction and strong acting make it worthwhile. Sometimes real life is horrible, and then it gets worse. Yeah, there's no monster in this one. Not really.
Not really.
Well, kind of there is, I
could
suppose.
be, but yeah, could
It's
be,
more
but not.
suffering, sadness, and mental instability.
Oh, is there suffering in this one? Man.
What happens?
Well, Billy draws in his sketchbook, and then he stops to take a pill. He goes out, passing his mother asleep on the couch with puke on the floor next to her. Later, he pokes a dead rat with a stick on his way home from work. When he gets home, what we assume is his meth-head mother is on the floor tripping on something, so he calls an ambulance. Well, the doctor reveals to us that Gina is not on drugs. She has end-stage Parkinson's, severe dementia, physical problems, and the doctor says she needs 24/7 care. But Mom's insurance won't cover that. And Mom is kind of belligerent and, not a pleasant person a lot of the time.
A lot of people in these kind of situations do get pretty nasty.
Yeah. And she does that with running hot and cold. She gives a really good performance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we see that Billy's taking Mom's Valium to cope and get some sleep and try to, unwind. He also has a hard time cashing his paycheck. And his boss lectures him about being a quitter.
If you can't cash your paycheck, that doesn't really make you a quitter.
His boss is just whacked.
A little bit, yeah.
Everybody he deals with is a little.
Still, he could have gone to a real bank.
Yeah, he's fixated on the ATM. Well, Billy meets Myra, Gina's new caregiver, Gina's mom. He obsesses over the dead rat. Myra likes Billy's drawings, and he narrates the backstory of the drawings, which is quite involved. She seems fascinated. Well, there's a lot of drama and conflict between Billy and his ailing mother, who sometimes mistakes Billy for Billy's father, which made for one really uncomfortable scene in particular.
She thinks it's his father and starts coming on to him.
Ooh,
he doesn't really fight it off too much.
Oh, he's just horrified, not knowing what to do. That night, Billy is bitten by a rat, and he cries like a baby. And then they give him a tetanus shot at the hospital, which knocks him out or he faints. When he wakes up, Myra's there to take him home, but he doesn't really want to go home again.
And at that point,
We're not going to spoil it
between the
further.
drugs and his own insanity, he starts to believe that he's becoming a rat. Mm-hmm. Maybe he is.
Maybe he is.
Maybe, yeah, it's
and
a thing.
Maybe there is a creature.
Well, the story is pretty slow-moving, but it's got excellent cinematography that helps keep it interesting. The drama about Billy not wanting to be around his dying mother is very realistic and well portrayed. As Gina, the mother, Lynn Lowry is really good here. She's hard to watch as she degenerates into her illness. It's a very uncomfortable film, and Dylan Mulray does really well showing us his torment. It probably could have stood to be a little bit shorter, I thought.
A little bit. They start beating you over the head with this horrible situation.
There's just too much
go
suffering and angst in the first hour. Yeah, another film would have spent maybe 10 minutes on it, and this one drags out. Well, I don't want to say drags out. That's really what it's about. But it goes on an awfully long time.
Makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah. The acting is excellent, terrific even, but it's almost painfully stretched out in suffering. The horror aspect is also pretty weak until the very end, but it is a good drama, so it's worth watching.
Yes, definitely worth watching.
What did we watch a couple weeks ago? Resurrection, which was a lot of talk and drama until the very end. There was some horror.
Yeah.
This is probably very similar in that way.
That similar vein where you think it's just ordinary stuff or mental stuff going on and you're not sure, and then there's some horror at the end.
Yeah, it's all very realistic, dramatic stuff until the end where it gets a little crazy.
That wasn't so realistic.
All right. And then one of the better shorts we've seen recently is Old Timers from 2022.
This was terrific. And it was weird how this came to us, too, because you were approached about this, right?
Yeah, they sent it to me.
And we
honestly,
both
I
misunderstood.
had forgotten that he mentioned it was a short film.
Yeah, he overlooked that, and I misunderstood. We were both expecting a full-length movie. We sat down, we started this out, and it started playing, and it was really, really good. And then it was
over.
we realized, this is coming to an end already.
Written and directed by Brian Quintero, stars Conrad Coates, Christopher Cordell, Natalie Dale, and Julian Richings. 15 minutes long. We thought it was going to be longer.
Yeah, we did.
But no, it's super good. What happens?
Well, it's December 24th, and Lawrence gets ready as a man walks through the snow and the cold. And credits roll. There's a knock at the door, and Lawrence answers. It's Richard, the man from the cold walk. Lawrence has invited him for a visit, and Richard has brought along a surprise. Lawrence mentions that they are both artists, old professionals, and they are long overdue for a collaboration. Well, there's wine and snacks, and they just hang out and, like a little party for two. Richard complains about getting old and falling apart. Richard is retired and can't really do the work anymore, but he says Lawrence is still doing the work. Well, they get into kind of a heated debate, and they argue and pull knives on each other. And then they laugh and continue to chat. And,
just kidding.
Yeah. And then they exchange their gifts. And we said, what? When they open what the gifts are. Why are these two getting together? And why does Richard not think this house is right for Lawrence? Are they really friends?
Yeah, it's like you get the feeling that they're kind of hate each other, but they're also good friends. It's weird.
It is a strange relationship, yeah.
Well, a couple of times it looked like Richard was talking to us, breaking the fourth wall. He'd turn around and say, "Oh, this guy is so great," talking to us.
No.
But it turns out there's more to it than that we find out later. Yeah, and of course we didn't find out that this was a short film until it was almost ending. Yeah, it was very, very good. Yeah, Conrad Coates and Julian Richings are really excellent in this, and
yeah,
it's really mostly just them two talking.
I'd put this up there in my favorite shorts for the year.
Like number one, or certainly high.
Certainly top 5 for sure.
Yeah, the acting, production values, and script are excellent. It's really great. This one's not on YouTube right now, but there is a trailer in the show notes if you want to take a look for it and watch for it at the festivals. It's really, really good.
Yes.
Okay. Next up, we got one that I had never heard of called House of Darkness from 2022. Kevin said, "Hey, we need to see this." I'm like, "What?"
I saw it on a list of recommended movies.
Okay. Written and directed by Neil LaBute. Stars Kate Bosworth, Justin Long, and Gia Crovatin. Hour and 28 minutes. Trailer in the show notes if you've never heard of it either. Spoiler free. It's well made, but not that interesting. And I suppose that could be argued. It's very dramatic. It's a little talky though.
And you know where it's going.
You do. The movie poster kind of tells it. Yeah. The cast is excellent, and so is the setting. You suspect right from the beginning where things are going to head, and it does go directly where you think it's going to go, but it takes an awfully long time to get there.
And Justin Long in a horror movie, so that alone,
He doesn't always die.
Doesn't he? Well, okay, he doesn't always die, but he's always at least emotionally traumatized.
Yeah, he cries good.
In Drag Me to Hell, he was Survivor Boy at the end, but he saw his girlfriend get dragged to hell, so that'd be a little traumatic.
Okay, well, what happens?
Once upon a time, Mina takes Hap home after their date, and she lives way out in the middle of nowhere. He's a city guy, and he's a little creeped out by the country darkness. She invites him in, and he's all awkward about it. Her house looks more like a castle than a house.
And I noticed at this point, when I'm looking at the IMDb credits, the two main women characters are named Mina and Lucy.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a spoiler right there?
Subtle hints, yeah. Well, the blood and fangs on the poster is kind of a giveaway, too.
Okay, so there's not a huge amount of surprises in this one.
Vampire. Somebody's a vampire.
For a long time, we thought maybe it was going to turn out to be him, and it was a sort of a backwards trick.
No, it wasn't.
No.
Oh, spoiler. We just spoiled that.
We're spoiling it here. Go with it.
Well, they step inside, and almost immediately the power goes out. Hap thinks he sees someone in the mirror, but then he looks again, and there's no one there. She twists his words, teases, and torments him with what he says, but finally they sit together on the couch. Mina says that her family has several of these estates scattered throughout the country. And while she's gone getting drinks, he calls a friend to brag. This was a buddy that they were at the bar with. And she overhears just enough to ask if he's married. He admits that they're legally separated. Finally, they get down to business kissing. She talks about how strong he is, keeping himself young. He says he could do anything he wanted to her way out there in the country. Anything he wanted. Well, just to start getting serious, he hears someone else in the house. And about this time, they remember that they don't even know each other's names.
Usually by the time you drive somebody 40 minutes out in the country into a castle and you
after
get
hanging out at the bar,
you'd ask their name at least.
Yeah, you'd think so, yeah. Well, they get that out of the way. And as Mina pulls Hap's pants down around his knees, Mina's sister Lucy walks in.
Awkward.
Yeah. Well, Lucy and Hap talk about their fathers, and the power comes back on. The sisters go into the kitchen, and Hap, who's had a lot to drink, nods off. He wakes up in a dark cave tied to a chair. He screams and struggles for a while until he sees someone there with him, but they vanish. And he gets himself untied eventually. The tunnels he's in are extensive, and he finds a huge mound of old shoes. He runs in the darkness till he falls and breaks his leg, but then he wakes up and he was back in the living room.
It was just getting good.
Yeah, he was just dreaming. Well, Lucy is honest and very direct and more than a little weird. She offers to give him a tour of the house while Mina is making more drinks. They talk for a while, and they kind of seem to like each other.
And he's been drinking Maker's Mark, neat.
Mm-hmm.
So you pour it in a glass and hand it over.
Yeah.
It takes her like 15 minutes to get these drinks ready.
It must be way, way, way on the other side of the house.
It's an excuse to get rid of her for a while.
Yeah.
Want to stop there?
Yeah.
All right.
Because stuff happens, but, you know where it's
It started
going.
out with Once Upon a Time, and the final words are, and they all lived happily ever after.
Well, not all of them.
Not all of them. Okay, well, the first half is pure awkward talking about an awkward date. It's a little bit, if cringy first date awkwardness is scary, then this is a terrifying movie. But this awkwardness goes on way too long, and after the first hour, it kind of started to grate on us. We assumed from the beginning, from the movie poster and the names of the characters, that this was going to be a vampire movie. Kevin said after an hour that it felt like they were just playing with their food.
That's how it started to feel. Yeah, it was pretty obvious what the girls were doing.
Yeah.
Plus, I think there was an under vibe. I don't know, director's
this
choice
movie
of
is kind of
writing.
hard to spoil because there's really no surprise.
Yeah, and it makes it look like Justin Long is a good guy, Hap is a good guy, but it's also got an underlying vibe of all men are pigs and deserve to die that I kind of picked up on.
A little bit.
Yeah.
They don't beat us over the head like some movies do, but yeah.
It's there, yeah. Plus, there was some horrific incidents in the past that happened to the one girl especially, that she tells a little story about,
True, yeah.
her origin story, which is horrifying. So she's, justified in hating men, I'd say.
Yeah. Well, we mostly knew where it was going from the beginning, but we were hoping for a twist or surprise. Maybe he would turn out to be the vampire or something. But no, it's just pretty much exactly what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
There were only a couple of sets and only 4 actors, and the special effects are, well, what special effects? There aren't any. It feels kind of like a stage play. It's just mostly them sitting in the living room.
Mm-hmm.
The production values are
yeah.
really good, but it's just nothing but talk until the very final gore shot.
Yeah.
I thought it was getting interesting when he wound up in that dungeon, but it was just a dream.
That wasn't real.
Oh, well.
Or it could have been a mental trick, some kind of mental projection thing from him, too.
Yeah, it could be.
Because it kind of tied in with her story, too. A little bit with the shoes.
Yes, it definitely did.
Yeah.
All right, then we go back in time for one that's not brand new, 2008's Cloverfield. Directed by Matt Reeves, written by Drew Goddard, stars Mike Vogel, Jessica Lucas, Lizzie Kaplan, hour and 25 minutes. Spoiler free.
It's a unique take, showing a first-person view of a kanji attack on New York City.
I love autocorrect.
Kanji.
Kaiju.
That's not a kaiju. I don't even know how to spell kaiju, but that's not kaiju. I'm reading kanji. Anyway, a giant monster attacking New York City. We get to know the characters and care about them a little bit, and then follow their ordeal as things unfold. It's gripping once things get going, and it's pretty realistic.
There's no kanji in this movie.
No, kaiju.
All right. Yeah, so anyway, we see information from the Department of Defense stating that this film is a memory card found after the Cloverfield incident. So basically, we're told right off the bat that this is found footage.
And you know that this isn't going to end well for people.
Probably not. Well, from the date stamp and Rob's narration, we see that it's April in New York City, and he takes footage of Beth in the bedroom. Footage then cuts to Jason and Lily wandering around town getting ready for a party sometime later.
And that totally I didn't get that the first time I saw this. This was my second viewing of this. That it's the same memory card. He had used it documenting his time with her. And they grabbed it and they were re-recording over this memory card. So that's why it cuts in and out of the past and the current.
That's the way that works with recording over a videotape. That's not the way a memory card. Oh,
don't nitpick that. I know that. We know that, but that's what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the same camera is being used, and Rob and Beth's footage is being overwritten. They meet HUD, who will carry the camera around the party, and he's looking forward to talking to Marlena. HUD. That's a commonly used abbreviation for a heads-up display where you get the point of view in a video game.
Uh-huh.
And he's our point of view character in the movie.
He's our HUD guy. Our mostly is him being HUD.
Yes. Well, yeah. We're told that Rob is going to move to Japan, and this is a going-away party for him. Beth does her recorded bit for Rob, and it seems like she likes Rob more than she should.
Mm-hmm.
They had sex some weeks ago, but shh, that's a secret. The footage that started the movie out.
And throughout it, too, there's, again, it's like a VHS tape would work, but when HUD stops recording the party and so forth and the events, sometimes it'll flash back and show a little snippet of that previous recording from six or so weeks ago.
Yes. Well, HUD is soon telling everyone at the party about this closely held secret. It's not so closely held anymore.
If you want a secret, don't tell HUD.
Rob and his brother Jason talk about Beth and how Beth is out of Rob's league anyway. Suddenly, there's an earthquake or something. They turn on the news and hear about an oil tanker capsizing near the Statue of Liberty. A group of party guests goes up onto the roof to see if they can see it, and then an explosion across the river sends debris flying. Suddenly, there's a mass stampede in the streets. Next thing you know, the Statue of Liberty's head is lying in the middle of the road, and we get little glimpses of something big knocking down the Empire State Building in the background. They don't make a big deal out of it. You can recognize the building falling down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The group hides in a little store as the lights go out, the windows implode, and we hear growling and huge footsteps outside. When they finally do go back outside, it's a ground zero level disaster out there.
And they were good about that. You mentioned them, showing the building in the background, and later in the background you can see the Statue of Liberty out in the harbor
with no head,
missing her head. Yeah.
James says the creature is still out there, so he wants to escape Manhattan. Some of the party decides to go with him, and they all walk across the Brooklyn Bridge. Rob gets a call from Beth, just as a giant tail smashes down on top of Jason, killing him and smashing the bridge.
Not going that way. So then they start running the other way.
We start to see military vehicles arriving in the city as the giant monster wanders around downtown skyscrapers. We see a news report showing smaller creatures falling off the big one and attacking soldiers. This thing, even its little parasites are killers.
Yes.
Rob gets another call from Beth. She can't move as part of her apartment has collapsed on top of her. Rob decides to go back for her in Midtown, right where the creature is. Lily, Hud, and Marlena follow along to help. And probably should stop there if you haven't seen this movie in the past 14 years. So they wander around the city with this monster, yes. It's basically, it's Godzilla from the people's point of view.
And they're on a quest to rescue Beth. And once they reach that goal, then their objective is to escape the city.
Get out of the city,
and get
right.
out and get away from the monster.
Who will survive?
Who will survive?
Tune in and find out. Well, the first time I saw this, back when it came out, I kind of hated it.
Oh, I liked it the first time.
I thought they spent way too much time at the party and getting to know all these characters that were going to die anyway. In a Godzilla movie, you want to see Godzilla. You don't care about the characters.
This was more about the characters.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And, well, we know we never got to see too much of the monster.
A little bit.
Not as much as you'd think, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This time, though, I liked it a lot more. If there really were a kaiju attack, see, it's spelled kaiju there because I auto-corrected it back again.
Okay.
If it really were a kaiju attack in the city, it probably would go something like this. The characters, especially Rob, make every stupid choice available to them and turn down every opportunity to be evacuated.
Well, they're after Beth. You know, they want to rescue Beth.
La la la, Beth who?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, they definitely deserve what they get from a movie point of view. Still, from a man on the street perspective, it's really good.
Yeah. Yep. Enjoyed that one a lot.
All right, so Cloverfield is 2 thumbs up.
Mm-hmm.
House of Darkness, sort of wishy-washy, thumb sideways on me.
Yeah, like a 6 out of 10 because of the predictableness of it.
Yeah. Old Timers, very strong thumbs up from both of us.
Oh, yeah.
Fang, we both liked. Good
yeah.
performances.
Yeah.
Not really terribly horror, but we liked it.
But excellent movie, yeah.
And Men, also 2 very weird thumbs up.
Yes, wobbling weird thumbs up.
All right, tune in next week where we'll have 4 more horror films and a short for you. Stop over at horrorguys.com, read the reviews, Horror Guys Books, no it's not, horrorguysshop.com to pick up our books, and Horror Bulletin for the newsletter. Or you just go to horrorguys.com and figure out the links from there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Kevin.
We'll see you next week.
See ya.